2013, over 150 million iPhones were sold. Also, 71 million iPads were sold. And only decades before, Steve Jobs was taking his step up at the first conference to introduce Apple II, one of the first computers that they created. And many would say that that was the change of technology as we know it, as the personal computer became something that is real to all of us even today. So I want to take some time just to meet the man who started this change, who started this revolution of technology. And something that was something about him that many people don't know is that he was very, very OCD. And so we're going to kind of go through his life and how he got there. And when he was a child, he was actually adopted. He was adopted by two parents. His father was a mechanic, and his mother, she was an accountant. And long story short, something that he struggled with throughout his entire life was his adoption, his parents giving him up and not being there. And you could see that throughout his life. When he decided to go to college against what he really wanted to do, because his parents had made a promise to the mother that they would send him to college, and he really didn't want to go to college. But he ended up going. He stayed for a full semester, and after the first semester, he decided, I'm done with this. So he asked if he could just stay in audit classes. So what that means is he just sat in the classes basically for free, and he took the ones he wanted. He took a calligraphy class because he thought that was really cool, and that's actually something that's very important to the production of Apple computers, because they were the first personal computer to have typeface, which is really cool. While at Reed College, he went on a spiritual discovery, and he also went on a discovery with drugs, LSD, and he will even tell you, he would have told you to this day, that LSD was something that he used as like an open door to find innovation. That's something that most people don't know or will recognize because, it's taboo. It was something that he used, and he said that it brought creativity to him. He said he could never remember it, but he knew that it changed him, and something that he even said in his book, you can hear about him saying that it was a bunch of hippies who created the 21st century. So later on, after Reed College, he met Stephen Wozniak, which was very important to his development as well. And Woz created the first computer, and Steve Jobs is the one who sold it. Woz wanted to make things for hackers and make it cool, and he wanted people to enjoy the computers, and Steve saw the opportunity in selling. So he sold from everything they created, from the blue box to the first computer, which was just a panel. It wasn't actually a screen and keyboard. Steve sold it. He could sell anything to anybody, and that's what made them the good team, because Woz was kind of nervous and scared in front of people, but Steve was not. He could do anything he put his mind to, and that came from the development of him being a rebel and just always wanting to prove himself. And so after Steve discovered this first computer that Woz had made, he decided, we're going to start a company. So Woz didn't have the opportunity to say no to it, and Steve took him to a conference, made him speak, and that's where everything began. And so Apple the company was born, and Steve, throughout the years, they developed and they started to sell Apple II. They sold hundreds of millions of dollars worth of computers. And Steve many people say that he was a tyrant. He was crazy. He would yell at people. They didn't like him because he smelled bad, and all sorts of crazy things. But what really was big about Steve is that he cared about what he made, and he cared about who he was, and that showed throughout his computers. Even when he left Apple to go to Next Computers, and then he ended up coming back and taking the company over again. And that's when we can see really the biggest change in Apple computers and when they really became something. And what I really want to talk to you about is how he changed the generation with his personal computer. So if you have an iPhone, I'd like you to pick it up and show it to us. Show the crowd an iPhone or an iPad. And many of us have these, and you know what it's like when you get to school or you get in a car and you're at work and you realize, I don't have my phone. We all know what it's like. You don't have your phone. You don't have your connection to the world. You don't have how are you going to call your boyfriend? How are you going to call your mother? How are you going to order lunch today? You can't live without our phones. And a few years back, we wouldn't have said that because it was just a phone. Who cares? You left it in your car, you get it later. But now we can't live without them, and that was the thing that Steve did. Steve was a rebel, and he wanted people to know that he could change the world. And a saying that he said is that the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who actually do. And I think that throughout his life, everything that he went through, being adopted, going through the spiritual journey, everything that he went through, and you can even watch this in his movie and read it in his biography, those things created Apple, the company that it is today, and they created the mentality that was Steve Jobs, and that mentality was that to do things of excellence, to do things right, and to do things that people want to have, because everybody wanted a personal computer, and people told him no, and they laughed at him, but he did it. So that's it.